Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm going to show you how to get n8n self-hosted, up and running and installed in an even easier way than in my video on installing n8n on DigitalOcean. Now, that's actually relatively easy, but it does require some command line stuff in the terminal, and realize that some people aren't real comfortable doing that, but it is pretty straightforward. But this way is even faster in many ways. And not only that, it's going to give you a platform that is super powerful, where you can do actually a whole lot more than just n8n on its own. But it makes n8n installation very quick, very easy, but also the updating, so you don't have to log into like a terminal and run some commands to do your updates to keep your versions up to date and things like that. It's just one click, okay, to refresh, redeploy, and but anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to be using Vultr for this, and the reason why we're using Vultr is because, for one, they have a much uh, broader reach, and many of the bigger backbone, providers, run off of Vultr as well. And what I mean is they have more locations, so you have more servers out there. DigitalOcean is great, but the server locations are actually kind of limited, and you may not notice the latency or problems, and with that, as a human, but they are out there. And so, in our case, with running n8n or any serious automation tool, um, you want to do whatever you can to reduce that latency so that you have a fast server, and there's minimal latency, especially if you're, let's just say you're in the lead gen space and you're doing a lot of automations where you have transactions coming in and out quite a bit. You need that to be as quick as possible, because you also have to deal with the load that's on the server and stuff. But I don't want to overcomplicate things for this, but we're going to use Vultr. But also, because what Vultr does is, with their install of the server instance that we're going to walk through, is they give you the option to automatically install a platform called Coolify. And so they have a prepackaged image inside their marketplace, that is already pre-wrapped on running on Ubuntu. All right, this is a Linux-based install, okay, and it's using Ubuntu, and then we install Coolify, and then with Coolify we can install, which is self-hosted and open for you to use, and there's just tons of applications that you can run on this. If you're an app developer or anything like that, you're probably familiar with services like Vercel. This is an option towards Vercel if you're comfortable doing self-hosting. The difference you're going to find between self-hosting and using a hosted service, a managed service, is, of course, the other one is managed, and this one is managed by you. So there is a little bit of technical savvy if you're going to go long-term production and supporting things yourself, and having just a little bit of grasp, or taking the time to get a little bit of grasp around things, and just understanding that if you ever run into problems, you're more than likely going to have to figure it out yourself, or hire somebody, or have a tech person who can walk through those things for you. With that said, Coolify is really simplified getting this platform up and running, so that you can run databases, so you can run applications and SaaS apps and all sorts of really cool stuff. So don't be afraid of that. If you're familiar with the n8n install we did on DigitalOcean, I have installs running on there that are installed directly on the server instance, and I've never had to touch them other than just use n8n. Okay, it's just works. Okay, but if you do something quirky and start screwing around inside the server part, you can mess some things up, and if you're not familiar with Linux and stuff like that, then you might get yourself into trouble. So just keep in mind the difference between hosting managed hosting and self-hosting. Self-hosting is on you. Managed hosting is you'll be able to call somebody and get some help if you're stuck. In many cases, you just don't need that. You can do self-hosting, especially if you're just testing things out, and trying some things. So anyways, let's get started on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy a Vultr server first. Okay, so step one, let's get a server deployed. Now I'm already logged into one of my accounts here. And for this install, we're just going to use a shared CPU. And I'm going to select a location for where I want my server instance to be. And since I'm in Texas, I'm going to select Dallas. You should select a location that's closest to you to reduce that latency, or closest to your customers if you're going to use this in a production environment where you're supporting people. So like I've said before, if you're in the UK and you have USA customers, then you probably want to have a server over here, or vice versa. It'll work perfectly fine across the pond, but you can have some latency. That you can mitigate that with a bigger server, things like that. But it's nice to have the option to select the location, especially if you're just doing development. It's for your own support and supporting local clients that you may have. So as simple as this is select your CPU. Now this is going to give you the lowest cost. It's a shared CPU. It's going to be just fine for this. Later on, if you got 100 clients, you might want to do something where it's cloud hosted, dedicated CPU, whatever. We're not going to worry about that. Okay, you're going to be just fine for a while this way. So 1, select the shared CPU. 2, select the location, and then 3, we're going to select the server size. Okay, now in DigitalOcean, I did select a much smaller server in the demo that I did, and we didn't use Coolify. And on that instance and other instances I have, I'm not planning or having any other applications running other than n8n or the application that I've installed on those. In this case, we're going to be installing Coolify, and then we'll install n8n through Coolify, but we also have the option to install other applications through n8n on the same instance. So we do want to pick something with just a little bit more power so that you have that flexibility, but it doesn't have to be extreme. You can get away with the one virtual CPU and 1 gigabyte, but it may struggle along a little bit in this case. So at least get a little bit more memory, or better yet, go up to 2 virtual CPUs and 2 gigabytes at $15 a month. Now, and that's the one I'm going to select for the moment, okay, just to make this a little bit faster, because it'll process a little bit faster. Keep in mind that when you sign up for this, if you do, you're not paying $15 immediately, all right? You're paying about 2 cents an hour, right? And if you fire up the server, and in 30 minutes or an hour or the next day or whatever, you decide, I'm going to delete that and start over, get a fresh one now that I kind of know what's going on, and maybe I made some mistakes along the way, you can kill it. It's only going to cost you 10, 20 cents, 50 cents, whatever. So don't fret over, $15 a month or $20 a month and stuff. You're not there yet unless you've used it for the whole month. So it's a pay-as-you-go kind of thing, okay? So don't worry about that. So follow along here. We've got shared CPU, select a location, and we're going to select our server size. Okay, and I'm going to leave it at that. We'll click configure server. All right. When we get to the next page here, we're going to, on the deploy a server, we're going to, normally we would select an OS, right? Ubuntu, whatever. In this case, we're going to go to Marketplace Apps. Okay. And so here's what Vultr has done is they have pre-imaged an Ubuntu build with Coolify on it, so you don't have to do anything other than just deploy this. Now, if you did want to or already have an Ubuntu server running, or Linux server, you can install Coolify with one command. All right, you would go to Coolify and you would run this one command in your terminal, and it automates the whole deployment for you. It's really, really nice. Very, very simple. You don't have to run 5, 10, 20 different commands and kind of get lost in things. So it's very easy. So they've packaged this thing up, and it works great. So we're just going to select that. And then in this case, we're not going to do anything else here. You can add a label here so you know which server it is, whatever. I'm just going to leave it. I am going to disable automatic backups right now because I just don't need that. It's not going to be a production server or anything. So if you are going to eventually have this as a production build where you're actually using it to do, real world stuff, then I highly recommend that you enable backups. Now on backups on Vultr, I think it's typically 2 or 3 days worth of backups. It's not a long-term backup. You may want to deploy some other backup strategy for if you need to have a backup for say 7 days, 30 days, and so on for more redundancy as you go on. But anyways, we've just selected Coolify, and that's it. I disabled backups in this case, and I'm going to say deploy. Boom, that's it. So really about 3 or 4 clicks to do that. I didn't have to do any command line stuff. Didn't have to do anything hard. I just selected my options and went through it. This is just one of my accounts. There's several demo stuff going on in here. And this is our instance that's installing right now. And all we were waiting for is to get that IP address. That tells us that it's in progress and we've got an IP address now. So now I can click into that. And you'll note this banner here. So as long as this is here, the server is still deploying. So just because it might indicate that it's installed doesn't mean it's actually running. Keep in mind that you're pulling down packages, you're pulling down dependencies, and it's building the server in the background. And then even once it gets up to a point where it's running, it's still starting services. It's still, those services still have to do some things so that the server can be alive. If you get ahead of things and you go too fast, you're going to get into trouble, because one of the things that it installs further on down the line is the web server, NGIX or Apache. In this case, I believe it's NGIX. If you get ahead of that, you're going to have problems. So just give it time, be patient, and let it do its thing. The full build, I'd like to say it's 10 seconds. It's not. It's about 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes 20 at the most, in the case that you okay, sorry about that. Our lights started flickering. I thought we were starting to have a yet another power outage, but thankfully I'm still back here, and I don't have to start this all over again. But anyways, you can see we're about well, let's refresh this, see how far along we are. So we're 3 minutes into this, and it's still installing. We still have this banner. There's other indicators, but this is just an easy indicator to kind of know where it's at. And I would wait until this is done before you just move along. There is a point where you could maybe go a little faster, but I would just leave it to be safe and until that's done. And we're only at 3 minutes, and I'm expecting this to take at least several more minutes before it's ready. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a couple of minutes. So I have to sit here and watch this tick because there's nothing to do at this point. Just leave it and be patient. Okay, be right back. Okay, we're about 5 minutes in. It is still going. Let's hit refresh again here. So it is still going. We probably can open up the IP address. By the way, so down here, app instructions, welcome to Coolify panel, login information, etc., etc. The first account that you create will be your admin account. Know that. And you should be able to access it via the IP address and the port 8000. Okay, so you can just right click on that and say open, and hey, Coolify is live. You could probably go ahead and create your account here, but you do not want to go past that just yet. Okay, don't try to install n8n or anything else until the server's got rid of this banner. Just trust me on that. And say otherwise, but I've done this uh, more times than I care to admit, and I've seen some of the after effects of what goes on if I get ahead of things. So just a little bit of patience allows it to go the rest of the way. Okay, so but I can go ahead and create the first login here. All right, but you can see we didn't have to do anything. All right, Coolify is already running for us on our IP on our instance, and um, no command line stuff. It's just simple. Okay, but the power I have with this tool, this solution is just, it's incredible. And I've been in automation and development space for 30 years now. And I've seen all kinds of things come and go and stuff. And this one is really cool. This one's really an eye opener. Yeah, there's other cool stuff out there too as well, but this one is really eye opener, really cool. And I've enjoyed using it a lot. And we'll continue using it for a lot of things, but we'll go ahead and create an account here. Okay. Trusty emails, and we'll get a trusty password, which I always fat finger. Let's see if I get it right this time. And I don't think, I think I got one extra character. Good. That might be it. Boom, got it. All right, we'll save that. You can click to get started, go through the little onboarding part. I haven't looked at it recently, but it's pretty simple, straightforward. I just skip onboarding. I'm just going to take straight to the console. So here we are. Coolify already installed. We can close these for now. Of course, you're welcome to read all about that stuff. And yes, there are lots of videos, or at least some, about Coolify on YouTube. That's great. That's dandy. But I thought I'd throw this up there. I know a lot of people are interested in n8n and self-hosting n8n, and I've gotten some nice feedback on videos for simplifying that install, and so hopefully this makes it even easier for some people and gives you some additional superpowers. Okay, now we're here. I would click on projects and add a project, but I'm going to try not to get too far ahead until this is just done. Okay, and look at that. Looks like it's done. Okay, 9 minutes it took to create that server, and now it's done, and we can use it. So we're ready to start doing some things. In most cases, sometimes I'll just have some coffee and walk away and come back at least another 10 minutes later. But let's see if it doesn't screw up on me. So by me going a little bit faster. So we'll click on projects, and we'll click on add, and I'm just going to say demo, and I've done so many, I'm just going to say demo 10 because that's what I'm going to name the subdomain that we're going to use later. And I'll just go n8n, okay, that's what everybody's here for probably. So n8n demo 10, okay. And you'll get another box environment, which is production. You can create additional environments like dev and staging and things like that. Just think of it as folders and a structure for managing your projects and stuff. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and click into that, and I'm going to add a new resource. And here's where it gets fun if you haven't been in Coolify yet. And here we are. Okay, you can install any one of these apps in, for the most part, one click. Okay, it completely automates everything. The developer has taken the time to build a really nice system that wraps these all up. Okay, and there is a ton of apps in here. Most everything you could need, even CRMs and web developers and blogging tools, and of course we've got our Git repository tools and Docker. And we got databases, Postgres, Mongo, and MySQL, and Redis, and so on. Just tons of stuff. AppWrite, I like these two, AppWrite and AppSmith. Are some great tools. There's several in here. I'll probably have to do another video on a lot of these. Buddybase is kind of cool too. if you're familiar with cal.com, calendars, you got the open source version right here. There's Invoice Ninja in here for doing, I really like Invoice Ninja. However, I have not had complete success in using it. The open source version, it is missing some things. I don't think it's being maintained, so avoid that one. But anyways, today we're going to install n8n. So I'll just put in n8n up there, okay? So we have two versions here. All right, so what's the difference between the two versions? Well, obviously this one is n8n with Postgres SQL. All right, well, the standard version of n8n is built on SQLite, which is a file-based database. Okay, well, they're all file-based basically, but this is more flat file database. It works just fine. Okay, you're going to be able to do tons of stuff with it, and you're just not going to notice anything at a level of maybe even if you're using lead gen as an example, if you're doing, let's say, 1,000 leads a day, it's fine. You're not going to have a problem with that. Now, if you're doing 10,000 leads or 1,000 leads an hour, with 10,000 leads a day, I would definitely go up to Postgres. Okay, the scalability and power of using Postgres SQL is going to give you a lot more, power to work with. It's also going to take up more resources. Postgres needs a little bit more memory and things like that. So you have to think about that when you do your server sizing. For this install on this build, I'm just going to go with the standard here. The install is for the most part the same. It's still, you're going to see one click, a couple little configuration settings, but the install itself is really one click, and it's the same with the Postgres version. But again, we have the issue up front with understanding our server sizing and the resources that Postgres would need to operate, and we just don't need to go there unless we're going to be scaling a lot of transactions. Okay, and when I say a lot, I mean like thousands and thousands of tens of thousands. I have, with the standard n8n build, I've done email list cleaning of thousands of emails in 10 minutes. If I get over 5,000 and move toward 10,000, yeah, it would crash. Everything would crash. So keeping it around, in batches of 1,000 at a time, and then doing looping through that. I did that for a load-bearing test. It handled it just fine. So for everyday use and managing clients for some automation and stuff, it's all you need. So I will quit rambling here. Let's click into that. All right, n8n, boom, we're here. Now, before we move any further, the next step we want to do is set up a subdomain. Okay, you can just leave it like it is, but there are some things that will pop up, and it'll be not trouble, but take you down the road of trying to figure out a whole bunch of stuff. And we're going to try and avoid that in this case. So we are going to use a dedicated subdomain off of a dedicated domain that we have, just to simplify the whole thing and to make sure that n8n fires up properly right away, as well as with the SSL certificate and this being an HTTPS and having all that, because we want that when we're using n8n and webhooks, which is going to be a big thing for you to use inside n8n, and we want that all to work right. So what we're going to do next is set that up, the subdomain. So let's go over here to Cloudflare. I have a testing domain that I use for miscellaneous junk, and I'm going to add yet another subdomain over here. And we're going to create an A record. Oops, we better grab our IP address. What is our IP address? There it is, right there. Okay. And Control C. So we're going to create an A record. All right. And I'm just going to call this n8n demo 10. And oops, it grabbed all that. Let's just make sure it's only the IP address. And double check something here. Yeah, okay. So we're going to disable the proxy status. Now, not to go on, get off base here a little bit, but sometimes it will work with the proxy pass with it proxied versus the proxy status turned off. And the reason why I'll do that, and it can get you into trouble, and I haven't nailed it down very specifically because I'm just impatient and I don't really care. But the reason it'll work sometimes is because you got ahead of the server build, and Let's Encrypt, which is going to self-install on your server, has not finished. And so what happens is you're establishing an SSL certificate on Cloudflare before Let's Encrypt is fired up and is allocating automatically allocating an SSL certificate on your server, and that's where things will get kind of tangled up. I've had it happen, not happen, happen, not happen, and but it's clear that it's when I try to get ahead of things that the problem seems to show up. So I think we've given it enough time to be building at this point, and it should be okay. And we'll give it a shot and we'll see what happens here. But we're going to turn proxy status off. Okay, it's going to be our subdomain, and this is going to be our full domain right here. Okay, and I'm just going to copy that. So we got n8n demo10.itsmsp.com, and we'll say save. Okay. Boom. Now we're there. We're going to go back to Coolify, and this is in our n8n intended install. We have not deployed it yet. You'll see this deploy button here. Don't click it yet. Okay. So I'm going to go down here to services, and we're going to change this address right here. Okay. So we'll go into settings, and you want to leave the port address 5678 on there. Okay. Don't take that off. All right. And we're going to add that right there, and then we're going to change the HTTP to HTTPS. And we've got our domain and our subdomain, domain at colon, and then 5678. Okay. And then make sure you click the save button. It's really easy not to see it because it's not highlighted, but click it, save, make sure you've got save. Okay. Come back to configuration and click on this save to. Just do it. Okay. Make sure you've saved everything. After that, we're just going to click deploy, and again, you got to be patient and let it install. All right. So, and even when it says it's done, it's not quite done yet. Give it a few more minutes and let the services fire up and start doing their thing. Because remember, we're building a package on a server. Remember, first we built a server. The server's got to download files, download dependencies, install them. The services got to fire up. Then they got to start doing their configuration settings. Just takes a little time, so be patient with it. You didn't have to enter in a lot of hard stuff to get to this point. You're going to have the same thing with any application that you install, and as well as on here. Okay, just give it time. And I know I've said it over and over and over, but I've seen it happen so many times that people just go too fast. Just be a little bit patient, and you'll be there, and you should get through this fine. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to click deploy. And you're going to see it go through the install and build and start pulling down the packages and extracting them, applying them on the server. And it doesn't take too long, especially if we've sized our server okay. And just about there, and then it will apply that, and see we've got our pull complete, and set up the volumes, and fired up the services. It started. Now you can see how quick that was, but I assure you that the server is still going to be doing a little bit on the back end before it's quite ready. You'll be able to test it, but if it's not, showing up when you try to access the URL, give it a few minutes, give it just a little bit of time, and in most cases, you'll have a live server. If you don't, then we've had some issues with how we set up the IP and maybe the pass-through or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and close this. All right. And here's what we're looking for. We're looking for running. Initially, this will be red and say, it's not running or exited or something like that. We might have a little yellow yield sign right here, meaning that it's installed, but it's still doing some things. We're looking for this green line right here too to show us that the service is active. Okay, and this is an indicator that it's, we should be able to access the domain at this point and move to the next parts of actually testing out and firing up n8n. Okay, let's see where we're at. I did have to pause for a moment. It wasn't coming up, and what was going on is I went a little too fast. I got ahead of it. At least that's how it keeps appearing. And for whatever reason, Cloudflare is there's some syncing between Cloudflare and then you have your server instance, which Coolify and the server are managing Let's Encrypt SSL on the back, and so that syncing and stuff back and forth doesn't seem to be as fast as if you just built the server and installed Let's Encrypt and stuff on your own. But not to go too deep down to that, you just gotta wait. And I said that before. I just can't reiterate that enough, because that's almost always where you get yourself into trouble, is just not waiting long enough. I would give it, once you have your Coolify server up, I'd give it another 30 minutes or so to just let it burn. And then before you do the n8n install. Once you get to that point where, because like I said before, the Coolify server is still doing some polling and running services and doing some stuff in the background. That's my belief, understanding. So you got to give it some time before it's ready to start allocating resources and doing configurations and syncing with DNS properly. Eventually it gets to the point where you just can install stuff very quickly within a minute or two and not have any issues once Cloudflare and DNS with your server are working all good. But anyways, not to carry on about that, so we're going to go ahead and let's just double check our n8n install. So we didn't really do anything other than click deploy after we configured our domain here on the service. Okay, now to open up n8n, and you just go to links, and then you'll see your domain and link here, and click that, and then boom, we've got n8n. The cool thing about this is we didn't have to do any command line stuff. The hardest part we had to do was setting up the DNS on Cloudflare, which was just a matter of installing an A record and adding your IP and giving it a domain name, going back into Coolify and adding that in our service. That was really it. Other than that, it's just waiting, giving it time for the server to actually do things and come up. If it's still not coming up, then you've probably gone too fast. Give it a little while. Just wait. Give it an hour. Give it 2 hours. I hate to say that. I'd like it to be faster, but it is the first install on the server. After you get past that first one and the server is really running on the background and the services and cron jobs are running and doing the polling and things that it needs to do to be an actual server, you should be able to just move pretty quickly on installing apps. But this first one will be a little bit slower. The convenience you get is that you're going to be able to install n8n very easily, but not just that, a couple hundred, under another 100 apps or more through the system and use those at will as well. But now we're into n8n, okay? So It's as easy as that. So let's test it out. Let's make sure that we've got an SSL certificate. Looks like we're all good here. I'm gonna go ahead and create. Remember, your first account is almost always your admin account, I should say, is almost always your first login. So I can type right here. And I don't really care about receiving that. Boom, we're in. I'm just going to select some random stuff here. And get started. I'm just going to skip that for now because I already have one. And you can see we're in the n8n, and we didn't have to do any command line stuff. You just had to listen to me ramble a little bit. That's the hardest part, I guess, probably. But you know, you can do some templates or start from scratch. First thing I always want to do is make sure that our webhook environment is set up and working properly. And the first thing I check for is I'll go ahead and click add first step, and we'll just go add a webhook. And what I want to see is I want to see HTTPS. Okay, I want to see that to be HTTPS, all right? And that's going to make sure that your transactions are secure, SSL going back and forth. You must have that. You need that. Can you do things with HTTP without secure socket layer? Of course you can, but it's going to be open, all right? And you don't want that, you know, for security. So I'm going to go ahead and test this really quick, and we'll run Postman, and we are in, and I'm just going to go ahead and create. So what we'll do here is get that to our n8n. So what I want to do is I want to change this to post on our webhook, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. You should be able to just click into it. It'll say URL copied, right? And then I'm going to say, I think we can go fast enough. Listen for event. Remember, you got to click that and to make sure that it's actually listening, okay? And we'll go ahead and put this in here. I shouldn't have to send anything with it. Actually, we could do a quick little body to make sure that we're actually getting something. So we'll just create a quick little JSON, and just call it that. Let's just send. Okay, workflow has started. That means it went through, and boom, there you go. See, our webhook is working. So we're all good. From here on out, we should be okay. And n8n is now running, and you have a fully usable n8n install, and you didn't have to do any command line stuff to get it going. I'm hoping to have some time to start posting, you know, some interesting n8n automations and stuff. I have a couple of hundred different flows, workflows that we've built out, and I'm working on making quite a few of those public and publishing my a facing GitHub that you'll be able to access those flows to, and yeah, so that's it. I hope that's helpful. Hopefully I didn't, you know, of course I know I rambled on because that's what I do, but try to keep it very simple. You know, it's a Vultr instance install, automatically installed Coolify for us, and then we did the n8n install, and we just had to wait and give it some time before we got a live n8n install. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, peace guys.